who's actually going to love this thing, who can safely walk away, and does it really justify the price tag for the average backyard chef? That's the question you hear a lot when the conversation drifts toward a full-size gas oven that's meant to sit on a patio or in a garden shed. If you're the sort of person who's tired of battling uneven pizza crusts on a grill, or you've been eyeing a smoker but can't decide whether to buy a separate unit, this might feel like the answer. On the other hand, if you only fire up a grill once a month and don't want to deal with propane tanks, you might be better off sticking with a simpler setup. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I first started digging into the idea of an outdoor oven, the biggest hesitation was how much space it would actually take, and whether the whole freestanding concept would end up looking like a permanent fixture rather than a movable piece. The Summerset the oven claims a big stainless steel shell, a built-in cart with storage for the propane tank, and 3 cooking positions. That sounds convenient, but the reality of parking it next to a patio table, sliding the cart in and out, and actually loading and unloading food can be a bit of a choreography. I looked at a handful of forum threads where folks were trying to fit the unit into tight decks and reading a few YouTube unboxings where the assembly took more than a half hour. If you're someone who enjoys hosting weekend barbecues that turn into culinary experiments, think pizza night, slow-smoked ribs, and maybe a baked dessert, then the value proposition starts to line up. The oven's 16000 BTU main burner is strong enough to get a 16-inch pizza stone sizzling within minutes, and the smoker box lets you throw in a handful of wood chips without needing a separate smoker. For the backyard enthusiast who wants to go from pizza to smoked brisket without swapping equipment, the dual-function design is a real time saver. The inclusion of 2 racks that can be positioned in 3 different ways means you can bake a casserole on the top rack while roasting a chicken on the lower one, all in the same heat environment, a flexibility you usually need 2 separate appliances to achieve. On the flip side, if you are the type of shopper who prefers a minimalist setup or lives in a small urban patio, the cart and the extra storage shelves might feel like overkill. The 304 stainless steel construction is definitely a plus for durability, but it also adds weight. The entire unit sits on a wheeled base, yet moving it from the garage to the patio still requires a couple of people, especially once the propane tank is attached. For a single-person household that only does occasional grilling, that extra effort could quickly become a deterrent. Now let's talk practicality. The most interesting feature, in my view, is the high-power halogen interior lighting. When you're trying to monitor a pizza or a piece of fish in the middle of a summer evening, the bright light lets you see inside without opening the door. In the field, that translates to less heat loss and more consistent cooking. The electric starter ignition is another convenience, no more fiddling with a match or a spark lighter while the burner is already hot. The included cover isn't just a dust shield, it also doubles as a heat-retaining lid, which helps you keep a steady temperature for low and slow smoking sessions. However, there are hidden trade-offs you won't find on the spec sheet. The oven relies exclusively on liquid propane, which means you need to keep a tank handy or invest in a larger, possibly more expensive, propane cylinder for high-volume cooking. If you live in an area where propane delivery is infrequent, you might find yourself scrambling for fuel at the last minute. The smoker box, while a handy addition, is only as good as the wood chips you put in it. There isn't a built-in mechanism for controlling smoke intensity beyond opening the lid a crack. In practice, that can make it a bit fiddly to maintain a steady low-smoke environment for delicate fish or pork shoulder. The practical strengths shine when you consider the cooking surface itself. The stainless steel interior is easy to clean, wipe it down after each use, and the halogen light will help you spot any lingering debris. The 3-position rack system means you can cook on a lower heat zone for slow roasting while using the top rack for direct heat searing. I saw a user on a cooking forum successfully bake a loaf of sourdough bread on the middle rack while the bottom rack held a tray of roasted vegetables, all without any temperature spikes. That kind of multitasking flexibility isn't something you get with a standard propane grill. On the downside, the oven's overall footprint is larger than a typical grill, so you'll need to allocate a dedicated space. The dimensions also limit how deep you can go with dishes. Larger casseroles or a whole turkey might not fit comfortably. The included cart.